Today is one of those days that's been a bit confusing, especially in regards to the vlog. It's a tough family day with like the holidays coming up and just some relational things where like the biggest thing in our life we don't really feel like we can talk about because we need to prioritize the actual relationships and in real life. And then of course there's just like, this is the last weekday before Christmas and it's this major holiday. And I don't know, it feels like there's a lot of stuff to do and my parents are going out of town and I don't know, I don't know if it's stressful, but there's stuff. And I'm getting sick and Cammie was kind of feeling sick. So we thought we'd talk about this topic that, well, here's the question. So when you two are apart for that long, I think SB 328 is referring to the fact that I was just gone for a week. Do you just abstain from any sexual experiences? Are you tempted to masturbate? Do you do phone sex? How do you get through being away from each other but wanting sex? Okay, how excited are you to address this question on a scale of 1 to 10?
2.
Oh, me too. We're sexually compatible.
Perfect.
When it comes to comment response.
Not so much because we shy away from it. It's just our brains are being occupied by other things right now.
I don't want to talk about it. Like, I just don't want to be honest.
Oh yeah, if I were to be honest with myself right now, that's probably me too, But
here's the thing. About
That's a good question.
6 or 8 months ago, it is a good question, and we have an answer. Like, our answer is just our life, telling the story of where we're at. And normally I would probably feel like, screw it, like let's skip that for now with everything else we have going on. But I think this provides like a good time. I've been kind of putting off this topic. But 6 or 8 months ago, we made this video. I guess I made this video.
Sometimes we sit down and I don't fully know what Ben's going to get into. So now it just dropped to a 1. I just realized like, oh shit, we're really going for it. I thought we were just going to like talk about
just
that.
Just be like, oh, you know, pray about it.
No, I just thought we were going to talk about like that 1 week. But we're actually going to be talking about our belief system. Ooh. Strap on your seatbelt.
Might as well. Yeah, okay. So 6 or 8 months ago, or a while, I have no idea actually, I made this video about my full sexual history. And it was just like this 40-minute long ass thing, reading what I believed, what I had kind of done and experienced in my life up to the current time period. And at the time of reading that, we were pretty negative masturbation. And I hadn't really masturbated much at all in the last 8 years. I think like 1 time in 8 years. Which like, it's even weird that I know that number, but that shows how diligent we were about really trying to, I would say, fight those urges. And there's a lot of stuff we could get into, but you can watch that video if you want to know what we believed back then. But I would say around June, July of this year, especially, our beliefs started to change. And we poked around, we talked about it in the vlog a bit, but we were still like not even sure. It was still kind of fragile stuff that we're like, you know, I'm not ready to like say yet like, oh, this is what we believe. But a question this pointed makes it easy to answer it, honestly, because our beliefs gradually changed for, you know, what is July to now? That's 6 months or so, give or take.
So SB, thanks for pulling us out of the closet.
Yeah. We believe masturbation's okay. It's not a sin. Necessarily, I guess that's the short answer. But
yeah.
I guess before we get into this, it feels weird that I even have to defend this, but I feel like I have to defend it for myself. And my guess is some of the people that listen to this have some of these tapes run through your heads too, so I just want to get this out there. We are very, very familiar with most all of the anti-masturbation message. Everything from the destroying relationship, to the lust, to the sin, to the isolation, to the erectile dysfunction, to the sex slavery related to porn, to the, I don't know, you name it. Like, we used it, we believed it, we preached it more than anyone else I know. Because in that time period, that 8 years, I actually believe there was a lot of benefits for me abstaining from masturbation at all. And I don't know if I talked other people into it, but I preached that message to a lot of folks. And I don't really regret that time period. But it's safe to say that we've moved on from that, and we have, by our perspective, evolved from that. So I have the exact date written in a journal. I don't remember when it was, but Cammie and I talked about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't believe masturbation's wrong anymore. And not only that, I was starting to feel like me believing that it was wrong was actually preventing me from growth and health, and in like a spiritual way. And that might sound weird. I know some of you, like assholes who don't know me, are gonna be like, oh, they're just justifying things. Well, fuck off. I mean, okay, maybe that's a little harsh, but you don't know us. Like, that's not my way, is to take the easy way out or try and slip around something to justify it. My brain is like neurotic about, like, I want to know the right thing. I want to know the bulletproof answer. I want to know, really, in a biblical sense, what makes God happy. I'm trying to think of another example, but sometimes I feel like people need to do the thing that feels wrong to them when they know it's not wrong, just to get past the judgment of other people.
The judgment of themselves.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about like black and white sins here, like stealing and murder and, adultery. But I'm talking about if you're like one of those people that's like judging everyone for like drinking soda pop because you think like corn syrup is the Antichrist, maybe you need to drink a soda every now and again. Like, it'd probably be good for you to realize that you're not different from the other folks that you're judging. For me, I consented intellectually that that's not wrong, but I knew I would still feel guilt and a lot of shame if I did it, if I masturbated. And I guess this is a weird thing to talk about because masturbation, it's like private. It's supposed to be. We're not very good at that, but it is a little weird. So there was one day in particular, I have it written in my journal, I think it was July, and I was like, we had been talking about this for a while. It wasn't like I was just like, had a boner and was horny and like wanted to make an excuse, but I was like, I think I should masturbate. And you're like, okay, or something.
Yeah, I supported it because I was starting to believe what Ben also was starting to believe, and that is masturbation isn't wrong, and that actually by Ben masturbating, it actually was the healthiest thing for him to do at the time, which sounds really funny to say, but I really believe that.
So I did. I went upstairs. It was like weird, and this part I don't remember because I've had so many changing emotions about it. That's why I like try to write it, because it has been really wild. But I think I felt like guilty, and I was like, oh crap, like what have I done?
And like you threw away like 8 years of like sobriety down the drain.
Yeah, by these like sexual addiction phrases or ideas that we had been using. And I was like, oh, am I like gonna be addicted? Did I just justify that? All these things. Mm-hmm. And it was like, in a way, that should be like a sign, I guess. It became like larger than life. Like, even with most sins, I don't think we should be afraid of them. I think we should be aware of them, but if we're afraid of sin, I feel like that's giving it almost like too much power, more power than even God intends with it. And that was me with masturbation. I was like, oh crap, did I get some disease now? And I'm over with, and I think what I was wrestling with, maybe deep down, was is God happy with me or pissed at me or disappointed with me? But almost overnight that week, I think I masturbated again that week, and I remember talking to you and I was like, wow, this is so weird not hiding it from you. And I realized most of the experience of masturbation that I had built up over the years some of it was sexual gratification. Like you're horny, you haven't had sex in a while, there's that energy or body fluid or tension or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I need to masturbate. But a lot of it, and there's also probably like an escape part where you're like, okay, it's like stressful and you want to mentally or physically like just get away. But there's another part where I was actually, I think, addicted to isolation, excitement, and shame. And what this like kind of experiment did in the beginning was it removed those things, because we're not isolated. I mean, and we've even observed it in the last 6 months. I would say our relationship today is closer than it's ever been in our entire life. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how much to say about that. Like, we could be delusional. Sometimes I wonder that, but I'm like, no, like what I see, like at least the things I find important. Masturbation, I don't think has helped our relationship. I don't like to say it that way, but I think the mindsets that make it so that we're open to masturbation, that has helped. Because overnight, I remember the second thing that happened was I stopped being able to shame you for things that you use for isolation. I mean, really what it was saying, it wasn't just saying yes to masturbation, it was saying no to shame as a manipulative tool for ourselves or others around behavior. And that's been like a game changer for us. That's
huge. I mean, that makes, I think, true intimacy where you feel like you're a safe person. That's a trigger word, but you feel like you're safe for me to share this with because you're not going to shame me, and vice versa. I started to feel, that's interesting because in the past year I felt like I used to feel like I used to shame Ben for, I think, sexual things mostly. And he used to shame me a lot about eating sweets especially, or like just zoning out on television or something like that. But now I feel like it's like we're on a level playing field. It's like he's not looking down on me and I'm not looking down on him. But it really has to do with this like shame piece.
And when you take away the shame, we're able to use the information to, I think, help the other person. So like, let's say I want to masturbate. Cami can then, whereas before I felt like she might have said, or maybe I was just expecting her to say like, okay, you pervert, or like, oh, didn't have enough sex, or I'm not good enough for you, or something like that, which actually is not true at all. I mean, she knows like she's good enough for me. But I guess this is the other thing I should pause and talk about. The other thing we've been learning is that our sexuality is not a 100% overlap. In marriage, they say, or the Bible, it says like two become one. And there's a lot of ways that we can share our lives, and I think God sees us as one. But practically speaking, there's a lot of ways where we're different people.
Which is like okay. In Christian circles, it's okay with like food preferences and like all these other things. But it's not okay with like sex preferences as much. Like as far as like sexual like appetite.
Yeah, so we always felt like, hey, anytime I'm getting sexual gratification, she has to be too. Or anytime she's getting it, I have to get it. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't believe that anymore. Not only do I not believe that, I feel like that was kind of a crutch and creating an unhealthy dynamic in the sexual and a bunch of other ways.
Well, it creates like a dependency that I think is unhealthy on each other. It's tricky because in some ways we are supposed to depend on each other, but all I know is like the last 15 years, 16 years in our marriage, when we were depending on each other for sexual gratification, it was not going well.
And it really puts a burden on you, because if I'm like, hey, let's say I am horny. Well, and the Bible says Cammie's responsible to take care of me. I mean, I'm not saying it actually says that, but that's what we've believed or felt from other people too. It's like there's this bottleneck where she now has this load or pressure, whether she gives me sex or not. It's kind of like her responsibility. And I don't see it that way. Like, if you're hungry, it's not my responsibility to feed you. Like, you know, you can go down and get a cupcake yourself. And
I think with like sex, I know like the Christian world I grew up in sex was totally over spiritualized. And there is like a spiritual element to it that I still believe, but it was like in this whole other category.
Yeah, well, it's like God created it. Is that not spiritual enough? I mean, I felt like almost every experience has to be this like holy like Bible study event. And it's like, no, sometimes you want to like release a load or have an orgasm, or sometimes it's connection, or sometimes it's make a baby.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's just like connect, you know, and it can be wild and passionate. I see sex as complex. Part of our belief system is based upon us both buying into this, though. You know, there's relationships, and I don't really know how to deal with it, or one of the partners is really, really against masturbation for both parties. I think that's problematic, not actually having anything to do with masturbation, but anytime we're taking a conviction that's ours and putting it on someone else. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a tool that our therapist helped us understand. It was really weird because he like asks couples when they're like, oh, we masturbate, or like, let's say a wife goes to the therapist and says, my husband masturbates. Our therapist, instead of just assuming it's wrong, goes, oh my gosh, like, okay, we obviously need to solve this. He asked this question, and it's kind of a probing question. He says, okay, how is that negatively impacting your relationship? And that's when we're starting to get somewhere, I think, in getting to what is masturbation oftentimes covering up. And since we've taken that off the table, I feel like we've had to deal with a lot more like insecurity issues, you know? Like, I know that there's been times where,
yeah,
I think in the last 6 months you've like asked this question, like, am I really good enough? You know, you're like, have you? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know if it's that. Not so much am I good enough, but like I took identity from him needing me in that way. And now it's not solely me. And I actually think that's healthier, but I have to like, I mean, when you're used to like feeding a certain part of your identity for years, it takes some time to adjust.
Because there was a party that didn't want to have sex as often as me, but there was also that same party that wanted me to, you kind of held the keys to the kingdom where I had to come to you.
Yeah.
And I needed you.
Yeah. Had this happened 5 or definitely 10 years ago, I think I would have struggled more with, am I good enough? But I think I got to the point now where I'm like, it felt way more of a positive than a negative for me. Like, it felt, and maybe it's the way you've done it. Like, you've included me for the most part in it. So as far as just like, you don't do it secretly, or, you know.
Some people might, listening to this, might say, oh, they're saying masturbation's okay. That gives me a license to do it whenever I want. And we acknowledge that in our relationship, our actions impact the other people, the other person.
Yeah. I think we had developed, or by this point, I think we had developed like a really healthy communication system, the way that you and I communicate. But if you did this 10 years ago, I think I would have, I mean, it would just, again, it's not the masturbation. It would have been like, we're like sucky communicators with each other.
Yeah, and I think 10 years ago, I was really isolating a lot more.
Yeah.
And had a lot of shame.
So I do want to say, like, again, this isn't a how-to type vlog, because I think we were at a point where we were mature enough to, like, handle this type of belief. But if I don't know if everyone's not going to be there. I mean, either you're already there or you're not there.
But if people want to isolate, we're kind of under the belief that if you take masturbation off the table, they're probably going to do something else to isolate. And it might be more moral looking, but it probably has the same negative effect on a relationship. But both parties are like, oh, okay, sweet. Well, you're not masturbating. You're only playing video games or watching football or playing on your phone or surfing Facebook. Yeah. And those things seem like they're okay, when in reality, they might be just as destructive for the relationship. In fact, they might be more destructive because no one frowns upon surfing Facebook or watching binge watching Netflix series.
Or cleaning your house from top to bottom because you're trying to like isolate yourself.
Yeah. So, you know, we've worked hard, and there might have been some times. Actually, you know, I actually don't think there's been times where the masturbation has gotten in the way of our relationship. So usually I let Cammie know, and I'm like, hey, I want to masturbate. I'd rather have sex with you. Is it something you're interested in? Mm-hmm. And she'll be like, you know, not now, and I'm fine with you masturbating. Once again, guys, these conversations, it's still like weird for us, so it's a little weird to talk about here, but this is just how it's been going. But if I was like, we had sex scheduled, and then I like masturbated a bunch beforehand and like couldn't have sex with you, I think then I would feel like my behavior is starting to hinder our relationship. And that still doesn't make masturbation wrong or bad, but it's just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that wasn't helpful, or that hurt you.
I ate dessert in the afternoon, and now I don't.
Right before I made dinner for you.
I don't want to eat dessert with you in the evening. Oh, okay. That's a bummer.
Yeah, that sucks for any situation. That's not a masturbation issue. That's a selfishness issue.
Yeah.
So when I was on my trip, I did masturbate for a week, and part of it was sexual tension, but a lot of it was just like stress. But this is what was weird, was like, you know, Cammie and I talked on the phone, and I told you about it, and I was even like feeling shame around it because it was like disappointing for myself. I still don't know why. I'm still dealing with this stuff. But when I told you about it, I realized it was kind of kicking shame in the nuts. And I felt close to you again, like the way you heard it. It wasn't, you weren't being a jerk about it or judgmental. And not that you would have done that in the past, but I feel like our belief system was such where we had created that. So we'd both like kind of hang our heads at me and be like, oh, that sucks. Yeah, well, I hope God still loves us. And actually that would create distance in our relationship, that shame. But now that we remove the shame, I realized, oh, it's a choice after I masturbate whether I be close to you or not. And in the past, I couldn't because I felt so guilty. So it was weird masturbating and actually still feeling and I think being close to you. Another side note, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves without saying this. Like, I've read the Bible, we've like studied the Bible over the years. I don't think masturbation is a biblical issue directly. So for people that try and make it that, you know, you can like put verses down in the like comment thing, but we're not just saying like anything goes in marriage or life, but we've spent a lot of time like studying and researching this, and like I said, most of my time was spent on the other side, trying to prove to people how destructive, how wrong, how blah 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 it was. Okay, hope that answers your question, SB, whatever number that was. I was so overwhelmed with this topic that I totally forgot that we are doing some mail time. I think this might be Cindy Dixon. It just says Dixon, but it's Kansas City. Cool. I wish you could feel this. This is not like a typical card. Like, this feels like it's like something. Happy holidays. Oh, it's a magnet. Whoa.
Oh, cool.
It's a magnet of our family.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
Oh, wow. Aw. Love
That's cool.
Cindy Dixon. YouTube fan.
Thanks, Cindy. This is from Charbonneau, Alexandria, Virginia. I don't want some books here. Theology of the Body for Beginners. A basic introduction to St. Paul, John 2, Sexual Revolution.
Oh, dang.
That's probably fitting.
Broken
Gods. I don't know what that is. And there's this thing here. Christmas Oranges. Based on the beloved classic holiday, a DVD.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there's a letter. Okay, here we go.
You should be remembered. Oh, Jamie and Nick wrote us a letter and just telling us all the things that they gave, about all the things they gave us and how they found our vlog. And thank you, Jamie and Nick. That's really cool.
This is from Krista, your old RA. In Montana, we got white chocolate caramel crunch.
Hello.
Whoa, dang, there's a lot of these. We got Montana Road, orange chocolate,
This fudge.
Peanut butter.
Oh my gosh.
Butterscotch toffee. Camp Kids, so thankful for you guys. Open honesty, boldness, humility, and constant gospel-centered message you share. Consider you guys mentors. I've changed and thought through so many life-altering things because of your vlog. Best wishes, Merry Christmas. Oh, it's like Montana. The Christmas ornament. We just need a Christmas tree.
Oh, thanks, Krista.
And then finally, this is really weird, but I think it's like fitting too, like, because it's actually like Financial Friday, which is the last Friday of the month. We try and like update you guys on our finances, and I didn't have anything to share. And then I got this check. I need to like keep it like somewhat hidden, I guess. We just got a check in the mail for $50,000, which came out of nowhere for us because, like, if you remember a year and a half ago in our vlog, we made a vlog about how we got screwed out of $100,000 and it was this relational drama and suckiness. There was some money that was due in August and we never got it, so I wrote it off. And I'm just like, well, okay, we lost $100,000 that year, like shit happens. And out of the blue, like here we are, December 21, like 4 months later, we get a check for $50,000 and it's like, wow, cool. I don't even know what to say. Like, we should go out to dinner. You guys, by the time you watch this, you've already hopefully had a Merry Christmas, but we're heading into that weekend for us. And thanks for hanging with the topic and the longer vlog. And I think you guys know our heart for this, but we're not trying to push an agenda in terms of like, hey, you should start masturbating or anything like that. But we hope that it sparks conversations with you or your loved ones, your spouse, friend, partner, and at least gets you guys talking and helps your relationship grow. And that's why we're willing to put our lives out there and talk about these ridiculous topics like our very personal sexuality.
Well, we're heading into our Shabbat night, which is where we start resting. We start resting from work that our hands do and the work that our heart does to try to be a good enough sister or a good enough daughter or a good enough parent or son. And the only reason we can actually rest is because we're not resting in ourselves. We're resting in another man's work. And I hope that you are able to find some kind of rest this weekend. Christmas can be hard. All right.
See you guys Monday.
Shabbat shalom.